Welcome back to the BattleHawk BlastCast. It's a weekly podcast where we discuss BattleHawks players, game recaps, and XFL news. I am your co-host Stone, and with me, as always, is the other co-host Travis.
How's it going today, Stone?
Good. Do you like being the other co-host, like you're an object, like you're a lamp?
That's fine.
Yeah.
I am the lamp, I guess.
Okay.
People do love lamp, so
Yeah.
that's,
Okay.
that's a fact.
So I'm your co-host Stone. I'm here with my other lamp. Because there are multiple lamps in this room.
Now it's just gotten weird and people have tuned out.
Yes. If this is the first time listening to the BattleHawk BlastCast, I apologize for that awful intro. Don't worry about listening to our last episodes. We're really just getting into it this week because we're finally caught up with live. Our other ones were recorded after week 2, unfortunately. But we're finally live. And since we are live, we get to talk about all the other great games that happened this weekend. Travis, why don't you walk us through those?
Yeah, so obviously, 4 games a week. It's a lot easier to keep your eyes on the action.
Yeah.
Now you only watched the St. Louis game, but I did watch every single one, like usual.
Well, don't say it like rub it in.
Oh, I'm just letting you know.
I did not get a chance to watch the other games, so I would put it.
Right,
It's not like I was objecting to watching them in any way, shape, or form.
I believe you did.
Okay.
In my heart. But anyway, so yeah, we're just gonna break down each and every game this week just a little bit, show you what the scores were and some of the key players in each game. The first one there on Saturday was the 2-0 Roughnecks taking on the 0-2 Tampa Bay Vipers. Now, this was a game we talked about. We talked about each one when we made our picks, and we both picked Houston,
right,
to win this game. Although I said I thought it'd be a little closer than expected.
Yeah.
Mainly because Tampa Bay was playing at home. Didn't actually think it would be this close.
They shut him out for like the first quarter, right?
They didn't shut him out, but like they weren't scoring as high as they usually do.
Yeah.
They scored a touchdown. So this was one thing Houston did that was interesting is their first couple of drives that not they scored in their first couple of drives, but the first couple touchdowns that they had, they just went for 3 points.
Yeah.
For no real reason. They were just like, screw it. We're gonna go for this. And that was a comment I made to you the one episode that was like, I think St. Louis should just start going for 3 because they ain't getting 1s, they ain't getting 2s. They might as well just start going for it for 3s.
We'll talk about that later.
And we'll get there, yeah. But this was actually probably, in my opinion, easily the best game this weekend.
I know it's not like a bold thing to say, but the Roughnecks are the best team in the XFL right now, to me.
I mean, that's not a bold statement whatsoever.
I know.
They're 3-0, so yeah. It's not a hard statement to make.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's a hot take, Stone. That's what that is.
I know. Well, PJ Walker is just...
He was good.
Indomitable. And I know I say that knowing that the first half for them wasn't excellent, but,
Yeah, so they were pretty good in this game. Tampa Bay's offense was actually clicking decently well with them. It ended up being a pretty good shootout. Houston won it in the end, 34-27. But PJ Walker, again, led the offense. So he finished this game. He had 306 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Damn.
Passing.
All to...
Yeah, so all 3 of them to the guy who
Phillips.
he had 3 touchdowns last week against St. Louis.
Yeah.
Cam Phillips. And he had a hell of a game this week. He had 8 catches, 194 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
And only 8 catches?
Yeah, only 8 catches, 194. But he had the first touchdown, he had a big 84-yard catch and run.
Damn.
And PJ Walker also had a rushing touchdown as well and 34 yards.
Now, I only caught the highlights, but the Vipers were constantly rotating their quarterbacks, weren't they?
So this is something, I don't remember if I talked about it on here. I know off camera I've talked about it with you briefly.
Right.
So like the first week they had Aaron Murray as their quarterback, and they kept bringing in Quinnen Flowers.
Yeah.
And he was doing better.
I saw their first week game.
Yeah, and they kept going back to Murray. Well, then last week, Murray was hurt, and they brought in this Cornelius guy, and people were like, "Why aren't you starting Flowers?" And they did the exact same thing. Cornelius played, and then Flowers would come in occasionally. And Cornelius did not look good. At least in this one, he played well. They did the exact same thing, but so this was Tampa Bay's first home game, and they're already chanting for the backup quarterback.
Wow.
Like there was a Quentin Flowers chant going on, and then finally got in the game, and they scored their first touchdown of the season. It was his rushing touchdown. He actually led the drive, but very interesting. That overall, nobody really had a huge game for them. Their one receiver did have 8 catches for 104 yards. Jalen Tolliver. But other than that, Cornelius had an okay game. He had a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown. But it's very odd to me that they keep switching up their quarterbacks the way they do. I don't quite get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's that one. Houston moved on 3-0. Tampa Bay drops 2.
Are the Vipers possibly green because they're a dumpster fire?
I've got no
the
comments.
only green team in the league happens to also be a dumpster fire.
Well, the Dragons are kind of green.
I guess that's fair.
I mean, they're mostly blue, but they're kind of
green. Their colors are whatever.
Right. And then we move on, second game.
Yeah, I saw, first of all, I did see some PJ Walker highlights because I mean, it's hard not to watch.
He's electric.
He's a monster. Electric. But yeah, it's nice to see that it's not one guy making the whole team. Like they still have places where they're struggling, and we know that,
right.
They have to win as a team. They can't just rely on one player, and they probably learned that because the Vipers scored, you said 27 against them.
Yeah,
which is a bit of a wake-up call when they're chanting for backups.
Yep, they didn't play as good on defense, Houston, as they have seemed to the first couple weeks. It was really shocking just because Tampa Bay has had no offense whatsoever, and then they put up 27 against them.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, they scored their first touchdown of the season in this game.
I mean, I know the XFL is supposed to be higher scoring. It's set up that way. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But last week they let 24 points through. This week they let 27 points through.
Right.
You have issues. Like, in the past 2 weeks, you've given up over 50 points. That's a big deal.
I agree. I agree. And Tampa Bay was 7-point underdogs in this one, too. So that was right on the money, actually.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to the second game, Saturday night.
So far, both batting 1,000, by the way. We both predicted.
Yep, we both had Houston that one.
Yeah.
We both went out on a limb on that one.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I really deliberated on that for a while.
So the second game was the 1-1 Dallas Renegades versus the 1-1 Seattle Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
That one was an all right game.
I said this was going to be the best game this weekend. I remember last week.
You did.
I predicted and then didn't get a chance to watch it.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the best game of the weekend.
I'm shocked.
It was a close game. I'll say that. It was a close, again, another one of those close games, but like how much was really happening. So Dallas ended up winning this one 24-12. They moved on to 2-1. Seattle dropped back to 1-2. There was a lot, like Seattle seemed to be pretty competent. They played better than what I expected they would against Dallas, to be honest. Dallas was 4-point favorites in this, and they ended up winning by 12. But yeah, there's not a lot to say about this one. Seattle was winning late in the third quarter. They were winning 12-6, and then Dallas scored, make it 12-12, and they kicked another field goal, another touchdown, another field goal. Seattle didn't really do anything in the second half.
Yeah.
Just throw out some stats here. Pretty big game for Dallas's tight end, Donald Parham. He had 5 catches, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a big 65-yard touchdown that I believe tied it at 12. I believe that's the one he did. And then for Seattle, they had a good game receiving by Austin Prohl. He had 6 catches, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Pretty solid. He was a guy, I don't know if you remember, in the first game against DC, he had a really good game for them receiving.
No.
He had like quite a few catches. I think he had 2 touchdowns. And then like week 2, he had like 1 catch for -1 yard.
No.
It was totally not
I
existent.
do not remember that.
But yeah, so there's not much to say about that one. Not a lot happened. I really just don't think Seattle's that good of a team.
Yeah, I'm sure you're not alone in thinking that. I know I don't think that they're a good team.
No, their quarterback, Brandon Silvers, he's not great. I did look more at like AAF stats over the last week and realized he was in that, and I didn't know that. He was also not great in that league, so I wasn't shocked by that.
Yeah.
But Landry Jones for Dallas had an okay game. His second game back, he had 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks though. But I think that's kind of what kept Seattle in it for a while.
Yeah.
All right. And briefly moving on to Sunday's first game, we'll talk more in depth about this one. Obviously, BattleHawks.
Oh, definitely. I was gonna say, BattleHawks played the first game. What are we recapping?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get further in depth with this one. So we'll skip over this one for right now.
But we predicted it correctly.
We did predict this one correctly, both of us. We also did just jump back a little. We did predict the Dallas one correctly as well.
I should also say we have been doing the Play XFL app.
Yes.
And you exactly predicted the score for
the Guardians. Yeah. And I'll comment about St. Louis's score on that, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
So we'll jump ahead to the last game of the weekend. DC Defenders versus the Los Angeles Wildcats. Now, this was a game going into it. We differed in opinion. You picked DC. They were 2-0. They looked good. I picked LA. They were 1-1.
Did not look hot, in my opinion.
Not look hot. And I told you this would be an LA upset.
Yeah.
And you called me all sorts of names.
I believe I said they just don't look good. I don't see them winning.
You could go back to episode 2. That's probably something on there. And for good reason. I mean, DC looked really good the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, the Wildcats had quarterback issues.
Yeah, but they did have Josh Johnson coming back last week, and he played all right. Well, I'll tell you, he played really good. So
well, I couldn't tell.
Yeah, the Wildcats ended up winning 39-9. That was the final score.
Yeah, that's a yikes from me.
There's a lot of numbers I could throw out, and probably will. For the Wildcats, Josh Johnson had 278 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Their one wide receiver, Trey McBride, he had 5 catches, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. And one that stands out, not a lot
5 for 109?
For 109, 5 catches.
So he's averaging over 20 yards a catch. Holy cow.
Now, probably their biggest game, not a lot of yards here, but quite a few scores. Their running back, Martez Carter, he had 34, so he had 11 carries for 34 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then he had 3 catches, 41 yards, and another touchdown. And this was a guy, I don't know if you caught any of his, XFL was tweeting out a bunch of like clips of him doing like flips and catching the ball.
Oh, yes.
And so he had ended up scoring a touchdown in this one. And on the sideline, the female reporter asked him, like, can he give her a flip or something? He was like, I'll give you one if I score again. And instead of giving her one after he scored, he flipped into the end zone on a touchdown. So that was pretty interesting. And there's not a lot to throw out for DC. They had a decent day rushing, but their passing, Cardale Jones was not good. He was 13 of 26, 103 yards, 4 interceptions.
Yeah, Cardale was the whole reason that I thought they would win.
Yeah, and he was a big reason why they lost. I know you're a big QB rating guy. His rating was 20.7. Yeah, not good.
That is a rub.
And it's funny because I look at the rushing stats, and their rushing stats are pretty decent. They had 3 guys that had 8 carries. One had 75 yards, one had 47, one had 40. Like they went over 150 yards. But
for four turnovers, where are you rushing to?
Right.
You know?
Right. 4 picks, not good.
Yeah.
So LA moves to 2-1, I believe. That's what it was sitting at.
Mm-hmm.
And or I'm sorry, 1-2, and DC moves to 2-1.
Are you right?
Okay. So, and we did say St. Louis ended up winning.
Mm-hmm.
Just say they're in first place now. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say, Stone.
Well, that puts you at a perfect prediction. 1 week, one perfect
1 week
score.
4-0. I'm
Yeah.
stopping now. Yeah.
So,
I mean, we didn't differ much, obviously.
well, I mean, you challenged me on LA and you were correct. So
Yep.
there's nothing else to say about that. Let's not wallow in this. Let's continue on to
I think
talking about St.
like
Louis'
I don't
game.
know. I
So
feel
the
like we should
BattleHawks
okay.
played.
All right. Yep. So
BattleHawks versus New York Guardians. We're gonna recap this. Let's start out by saying that crowd was incredible.
yes.
Like when they
Absolutely.
said that we talked about last week, it's selling out. Man, was it worth it? That crowd. I remember we talked about last week. I was like, oh yeah, the Houston crowd was the best crowd in the XFL so far. And then this week it's like, nah, it's St. Louis by a landslide. Man, it packed. There was all that blue. People wearing the St. Louis Blues jersey because they probably couldn't get BattleHawks merch at all. But
Right.
they were chanting. Everyone was into it. They were immediately dissing St. Louis's owners when they were the Rams. They started that chant first thing.
So when I rewatched it, there was at least 2 or 3 Cronky sucks chants.
Yeah.
In the first 10 minutes.
Instantly, while it was opening.
There was one right at the end of the national anthem.
Yep.
And then after they scored a touchdown, we'll get to that. But after they scored a touchdown, then another one erupted on the kickoff. I was like, wow, they did this more than I remembered.
Yeah, the costumes were great. The signs were excellent. It was really making me stoked. And I said it 100 times during the game, and I think everybody did. But man, those uniforms look good. I mean, I know it was just a blue uniform, but they look so clean. It's just the right shade of blue. I don't know. I was really excited to see them in their home uniforms. It was the best possible crowd. I don't know if we, watching at home, have been more excited for a game yet. I think it was just such a fantastic atmosphere, and it even came across on TV.
Yeah, I think all of us were pretty pumped.
Yeah.
Pretty pumped for it too, and ready. And well, I mean, we could dive right in. It started pretty exciting, and it kept going from there.
Even before it starts, I did notice that Mumphrey was doing the kickoff return instead of Pearsonell, who'd been doing it in the past.
Yeah, they did switch that up.
That's the only real thing. But what you're talking about is the very first drive. There are only 4 rushes. It's a 72-yard total drive, but for a touchdown right in the beginning of the game. The whole drive time was a minute 50, I think.
Yep.
But it was just bam, bam, bam. 3 runs by Jones, and he was pounding it the whole time. And then Jones comes off onto the sideline. Michael comes in, and it's just I want to say 11 yards for a touchdown, but 14 yards for a touchdown. And then we go for the legendary 2-pointer, and guess what? We don't make it.
Don't get it.
But what I do want to say is, it's clear that our strategy in this game is we've figured out the conversion. 2 is the magic number. We're going for 2 every time. It wasn't okay, we opened up strong, let's just get 1 extra. It was it seemed like Hayes' strategy now is 2 is the standard.
Yeah, and I said this last episode, and after watching this past weekend's games, I think you're seeing that come to fruition, that they just weren't sure what they needed to do yet as far as conversion rate.
Yeah.
And I don't have the stats in front of me, but I definitely don't remember seeing that many 1-point conversions.
No.
There was a lot of 2s, and
Granted, I only watched highlights, but I only saw 2 or 3s.
Yeah, like I said, Houston I think only went 2s and 3s.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you'll see that more as time goes on, because it's just the percentages for the conversion rates, 1 and 2 is nearly identical.
Yeah.
So why not try it for the 2?
I feel like the 1 point is there to put it away if you have the lead, so that they absolutely cannot score enough to get to you. Yeah. I feel like that should be the existence of the 1 point.
Yeah, because I mean, you are at the 2, so it is all right, let me just hand this off real quick and pound it in, and you just get that one extra point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in most situations, I think you should be going for 2 at
Yeah.
least.
Absolutely, without a doubt, 100%. Yeah. The other thing I noticed on the very first, well, I'm sorry, no, not on the very first drive, but immediately after the first drive, 11:36 remaining in the first, we see our first spy we have on the opposing bench. In the New York Guardians bench, there are some water personnel in BattleHawks gear. We were convinced the whole time that we had spies on the opposing bench. So maybe that's how we perform so well. I don't know. The XFL might be investigating.
If you see New York play, I mean, might not be shocked about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if we necessarily needed any spies on that.
I'm just saying, I think, well, the Patriots filmed the Bengals. What advantage did they need, But
that's fair. I'm
convinced that we may have had spies in this game. Sorry. After that, I don't know what that was. After that drive, Pearson Eldo is returning the first punt. I also noticed on the same drive after that punt, Coach Long is talking to Ta'amu after a play, after a fake handoff. Remember we were talking about how much he commits to those fake handoffs, and that's how they sell so well?
Right.
You can hear Chuck Long tell him, like you have to get more motion on that.
Yeah.
That last play. And I thought that was interesting because, they definitely are practicing, really selling these handoffs.
Yeah.
I thought that was something he just kind of did because he just came from college, But it seemed like it's something they're actually, hitting on.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing is the whole access, between the coaches and the players, whatever it is that the XFL's been giving. At the first week, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Then, as the weeks have progressed, I find myself more and more really into it.
Yeah.
Because you're just seeing and hearing a lot of things that you're just normally either don't hear, or when people are talking in an NFL game, you're just like, well, what are they saying? What are they?
Somebody's getting yelled at.
Yeah, or when refs are talking, it's like, man, I'd love to hear what the heck they're talking about, and then something happens, you're like, well, what was that? And then they never explain it.
Yeah.
And you just get all those things right there. There is no need for explanation because you hear it.
Yeah.
And it's
or
really
even
nice.
Last week, remember people wanted that call for pass interference, but their shoes got tangled.
Yeah.
Even the refs just being like, their shoes were tangled.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the update, ref. Now I can enjoy this game more.
Yeah.
Now
I won't sit here and be like, why did they call it pass interference 5 minutes ago? Yeah.
Right. That was a free first down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super into this unfiltered access. And they were saying in the commentary for this game when people were covering up their faces, you can still read the signals of your opponent. So that's fine.
Yeah.
Because we were joking even in the room, you don't have to cover your face. Everyone hears what you're saying.
Yeah.
But apparently, yes, the other team they're still allowed to read.
I did say that the first game we watched, but it fell on deaf ears, and I've just stopped trying to repeat myself about it.
Yeah, well, who listens when you talk?
Right. I mean, people aren't right now, so,
In fairness, there's a lot of screaming during our games.
There is.
It's usually at each other. But
Also
then
true.
there is a time where we unified yell at the TV. I will also say that one of our friends did specifically coin a phrase that I love, which was the blue boo, because of how amazing and unified the booing was from St. Louis' home crowd.
One of our friends, and I'm shelling out right now because he did say he would listen to every episode that his name was said.
Okay.
So Zachary Hebda.
You don't say his last name.
No, he said I needed to say it.
Okay.
So I'm throwing that out there.
Yes, he coined the phrase
the
blue boo, and I loved it.
That was just from, I don't remember how it started, but that was just from them booing something.
It was silly, and I know I'm biased because it's our team, but we were like, that's a great boo, great time to boo. It was unified front no matter what was happening. Even if it was stupid, everyone together was like, I'm getting on board with this boo.
Yeah, because I think how what he first said was there was a whistle or something, and they decided not to call a penalty or something, and he was just like, that's because they're afraid of the blue boo.
The blue boo.
And it's like,
it haunts them.
Yeah.
I loved it. So Zach, thank you for coining that incredible phrase. Another note I have, Marquette King has some fire blue dreads in this game. I kept trying to show you guys.
You did.
And then
keep
every
saying
time
this,
I pointed out, you guys would look at the TV and it was already off the TV.
Yeah, never saw it.
But he has some great BattleHawk blue colored colored dreads, and I love them.
One thing I will point out about Marquette King is apparently they were talking about it during the broadcast. Sometimes he goes by Marquette, sometimes he goes by Marquette.
Yeah.
And it just depends on what day of like how he's feeling. I was like, this doesn't make any sense.
Because in the first game they kept calling him Marquette. I was like, okay, it's Marquette.
I always thought his name was Marquette.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
When I look at it, I think it's Marquette. But like the booth and everything kept calling him Marquette for the first one.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's just how he pronounces it.
Yeah.
And like he was interviewed on the sidelines and they called him Marquette to his face and he didn't say anything. So I figured that's right.
Yeah, because they were like coming in today. They asked him like, "All right, are you Marquette or Marquette?" And he's like, "I'm feeling Marquette today." I was like, okay.
I'm gonna call him Marquette, but either way, nobody cares.
Still gonna call him Marquette because that's what I've called him for the last like 6 years.
But speaking of him, our second drive, we have to punt it away, and he gets ran into by the Guardians' defense. Yep. This is the start of the trend of them keeping our drives alive with penalties because it's a free first down. It keeps going. Lucas gets injured immediately following this, so our main tight end is out for a time. He will come back in later, but it comes down to the wire, like we're about to lose our drive, and then they get a pass interference. Yep. So we're back in it thanks to New York.
Yeah,
and it's a lot of that's like they just have awful number of penalties.
Yeah, it was interesting because like the last 2 weeks we've talked about how much St. Louis has shot themselves in the foot, and boy, like they did not shoot themselves in the foot as much as New York did in this game.
It's very clear, even after from week 1 to week 2, that they had worked on their false starts because their false starts were abysmal in the first game. This one was a lot better. We did only have one false start this entire game. What I will say is the announcers said that they were playing the cadence, though, over the PA.
I did catch
that.
And
that's why I think New York jumped so many times.
Yeah.
It's because I think it was like weird hearing the count like then broadcast through the entire stadium.
See, I thought it was just like a weird echo that the mics were picking up, and then they said that, and I was like, well, that's interesting. I was like, I'm not really sure why. I guess maybe that's just an extra added advantage. I don't really know the reasoning, but it was interesting. It was interesting to hear that because I've never heard that before.
Yeah, but I think that's so great. Like, even when you're going to a live game, you're still getting most of the unfiltered access you would be getting if you're sitting at home, which is nice that the XFL wants to keep the experience consistent. I think that's really cool.
Right.
So the real like headline of the first quarter is like time of possession. Like, BattleHawks owned the ball this entire game. There were only 2 drives by each side, and I mean, the BattleHawks controlled it for, I'd say, like 75% of the first quarter at minimum.
So that was an interesting switch. Was they controlled it for probably about the first quarter and like half of the second, and then the rest of the game they didn't really have a lot of it.
No.
And I think the time of possession,
I'd argue in the fourth quarter they had a decent amount of time of possession.
They had a couple. They had like a drive or 2 in there that took a while.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't have the official numbers in front of me, but I know midway through the third, like New York was actually leading in time of possession. Because I remember it shocking me because I was just like, I feel like we've dominated every aspect of this game. How have we not had the ball?
It's all the stoppage of play for penalties.
Yeah, basically.
But okay, but in our second possession of the first quarter, which is our final possession of the first quarter, 1:33, we are on 4th down, and we make the baffling decision here at the 42-yard line to not go for a field goal.
So, so after we rewatched it, I took a closer look at it. So it would have been a 60-yard field goal. Yeah, they were at the 42. For some reason, we all thought they were a little closer than that.
Yeah.
They were only at the 42. Now, I still disagreed and still thought they should have went for it.
Yeah.
On 4th and 2 because it resulted in a punt, went back to the end zone. That's a touchback.
They were pretty much where they were.
It comes back out to the 35.
Yeah.
They gave them up 7 yards. I still disagreed, still thought they should have went for it. But at the time, we thought they should have at least went for it or kicked it.
Yeah. And especially since our very Italian-named kicker has the juice, man.
Yeah. We'll talk about that. There's that field goal that he kicked that was like 58, I think, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
There was an interesting thing you heard Hayes and him on the sideline, and Hayes wanted to punt it, and he like turned to him, and Russolino said something to him. He's like, "You want to bang it?" And like you hear him like, "Yeah," and he's like, "All right, go out there and bang it." And he sent him out to kick it, and then he just nails it through the uprights.
Dude,
for like
he should
58.
have been more persuasive on this drive.
Right. Like,
we could have started with more points on the board.
yeah, because the 50. I mean, if he would have kicked the 60-yarder the way he kicked the 58, he would have made it. He had the leg for it.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
Because the 58, I think he still had a few yards on it.
Okay, so maybe not a baffling decision.
I still think they should have went for it.
Absolutely, 100%, 100%. There was a very small amount to lose had they gone for it.
Yeah, 7 yards.
Yeah. Well, not that they knew they would get a touchback on the kick, but
right.
still.
But that's the risk. That's why, like, you hear in every broadcast, you'll hear them talk about like there's an area between like the 40 and the 50 where it's like they probably should just go for it because
the surrender zone.
Yeah, the odds of kicking or like punting it, because they also can't punt it out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you can't punt it into a corner and kick it out of bounds, because that also results in a touchback, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Like, even the rules are trying to make you go for it around that time.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I think, again, it's only week 3, so these are things you'll see. I mean, they're new to the rules as much as we are.
And Hayes is smart. He's not afraid to admit his mistakes at all. Like, on the sidelines, every time they interview him, he's like, "Yeah, we need to execute on this particular like tackling, for example."
That's a big one. He pointed that out at some point.
Yeah. Okay, so
he must be listening to the podcast.
The second drive for New York. This is still technically the end of the fourth. The end of the first. They already bring out Williams. McGloin seems to have injured one of his ribs. Was in the tent getting looked at.
Yeah, so he went in shortly after the first drive. He went into the tent. He does come back out the next drive.
Yeah, I have it written down when he does come out.
Yeah, he does come back out the next drive, but he's only in there for that drive, and I think they have like another one.
A little bit more because he hurts his finger.
Yeah,
then too.
And then at halftime,
he doesn't come
back out at all.
Mm-mm.
So
no,
we talked about it leading up to this game that like I think McGloin's just not good, and they have quarterback issues. Well, it doesn't help your team when the starter for that week is having injury issues then, because it's like whether or not the other guys are ready to go, like he was the guy that was ready to start the game. So
yeah,
it definitely put him in a hole from the get-go. But especially from the start. I mean, the start we had, they needed to go down the field and answer, and they didn't.
And add to it the fact that the stadium was so loud, they weren't even getting all their calls.
Yeah.
Like, so he was already like under the gun sometimes, missing out on calls entirely. Like, the communication wasn't all there. So
yeah, there was a point, I don't remember when it was, but there was a point where like the offensive coordinator was like yelling a play, and he didn't even hear it, and the offensive coordinator kept like knew he wasn't hearing it and kept screaming it into the mic. And he never heard it once.
Yeah.
And then
it got loud.
Yeah, it was bumping.
Good for St. Louis.
It was bumping in the dome. They were excited.
12:24 remaining in the second. New York finally gets a field goal, and it's for 53 yards. Like, they're booting on both sides.
I did put down, I did make a note of that one because it was a really nice kick. It was like dead center, 53 yards.
Oh, yeah. That's also worth noting. It was like right down the center. I think we all at one point, we were like booing them because they were like going for an attempt.
Yeah.
But when they got it, we were all like, damn, that was pretty nice.
Yeah. Like, even in the live, I was like, because I think somebody had said like, oh, he'll miss it. It's 53, and then he kicked it, and we're just like, damn, that was a nice kick.
Yeah. Yeah, so that puts it at 3-6 St. Louis. Kickoff return. This is the play, boy. It gets reversed to Joe Powell. He scores a touchdown. Almost ruined by number 35 trying to be in the photo. I was livid at this guy.
You did yell
This
about
is like an incredible looking kickoff return. It's the first ever kickoff return for a touchdown in the XFL. It's an excellent reverse. I think Mumphrey received it.
Yes.
But then he reversed it to Powell.
Yeah, so he received it near the right hash and then kind of went to the left and lateral it back to Powell. And then he took off.
Yeah, down the sidelines, pretty close to out of bounds. So much so that when it came to the very last step, had he not reached out with the ball, he would have been ruled out of bounds.
Yeah.
Um,
The ref actually ruled him out at first, and then somebody was like, "Oh no, he didn't
the
step
booth
out." And
review.
they're like, "Okay."
Yeah. Yeah, but 35 drove me crazy. Instead of blocking for him, he's like running up next to him and celebrating too early. And then a defender, well, not a defender, but a
Yeah.
guardian defensive player at this point pushes 35 into Powell, knocking him out of bounds.
Yep.
If he had actually picked up the block, that would have never happened.
Yeah,
So-
he was looking. So I think he was semi celebrating, and he was looking directly behind Powell. To see if anyone was going up, and nobody was near him, but he was totally oblivious to the guy that was running right behind him.
Almost ruined
Yeah.
the score. I was losing it live.
Yeah, because we all saw it happening, and it progressively got louder and louder and louder, and then it got to the end. We started screaming, and then he got hit right before the end zone, and we all kind of instantly were like, "Oh no, it's ruined!" And then it was like, "No, touchdown!"
Yeah. I would have described myself in that moment as livid. In what
You
it was
were.
possibly the most exciting part of the game.
You were very livid.
Yes.
You were yelling at this TV.
I was really not happy. But either way, we fail a 2-point try. Go figure.
We do.
It is 3-12. St. Louis is still leading. McGloin comes back in for this. This is a drive that he comes back in for. This is the point where the announcers say the crowd noise was so loud that they couldn't hear it, but it was happening even before that. But yeah, another observation I had within the second quarter. So pretty much for the first half, anytime they threw, it was exclusively screens.
Yeah.
Like if we threw anything past the line of scrimmage, it was probably no more than 3 yards. I think that really Ta'amu's story in the XFL is kind of like he's the most accurate, right?
Right.
And the way he gets his reputation is built up a lot of times because of these screens. A lot of the screens in the very beginning of the game were just awful catches by the receivers. He was still on. And I can't remember when it was exactly, but when we were watching, I even specifically said, that's the first overthrown ball so far.
Yeah.
Even when they start to actually throw it deep, he can make stuff happen.
Yeah.
But, it was just crazy because it was I don't know, it was a little boring. It's just screen.
Well,
and they were still moving.
Right.
But
he didn't have a great game. They didn't need him to.
No.
By any means. He only threw 18 passes. He was 12 of 18, had 119 yards.
I will also say, out of that 12 of 18, the first 4 passes he threw were either there was a pass interception. Sorry, not an interception.
No, he didn't throw an interception.
Pass interference.
Yeah.
Or it touched the receiver's hands and they failed to catch it. I know Lucas so far, first was a big offender, and then there was another one that bounced off, I want to say Pearson L's hands, and popped up, and I was really nervous about a turnover.
I do remember that one. I think it was the first one to Lucas. He threw it behind him. That was the reason he didn't catch it. But he's dropped a few.
Yeah.
He had 5 targets in this and only had 2 catches.
Yeah, I also have that he got injured on this particular drive, and that could have been. Well, I'm sorry, he came back in on this drive, but he was injured before. The first pass that he missed was his injury, so that was 1 of 5 accounting for.
And another thing to notice, Ta'amu he only ran it 3 times this game too.
Yeah, a lot of fakes,
Yeah.
a lot of fakes by him. But why would he have had to?
Yeah,
the run was our best option this entire game.
Yeah.
So why get into the mix when you're not the best option?
Right. Matt Jones he had 15 touches for 95 yards.
And a lot of those, he found his way through it. Even if there wasn't a hole, he was juking guys and he was adding extra to it.
And it even seemed on plays where nothing was happening, they were still getting 5 or 6 yards.
Yeah.
There wasn't a hole, but the line just pushed everybody back. It just didn't look good for New York's defensive line.
There was, in the beginning, I think it was on our second drive, there was a tackle for a loss on a run. That was the only notable one until the fourth quarter when it was just kill the clock runs, But yeah, our running was really solid throughout this whole game. But yeah, this drive ends with a field goal for 39 yards. It's 3:15 St. Louis.
I will note this was at the moment where I was like, even though it was only 15-3, there was like 5 minutes still left in the second. This was the moment where I was like, I think we got this.
Yeah.
Just because I've seen New York play and they're not an explosive team.
Yeah.
With McGloin being hurt. Not that I don't, even if he wasn't hurt, I still would have thought the same thing.
Yeah.
But I felt really comfortable. And I think my level of excitement kind of went down from here just because I had already felt like we won the game.
I disagree.
Well, I should say my level of excitement, just like I wasn't like super into it anymore just because I was like, I already chalked it up as a win. I know you shouldn't do that, but I just felt like there was no way we were going to lose this game.
That's fair. Well, if you didn't think that before, you would have thought that because we immediately take New York 3 and out and then block the punt, and it looks so good. It's like a textbook punt block. He's right up on him. He's diving out of the way of the kicker as to not turn it into a penalty, and then it bounces right toward his own players.
And then start with the ball at the 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very nice play.
And then that drive ends with a 1-yard touchdown by Jones.
Yep, puts us up 21-3 with a minute left.
But that's not the highlight because, first of all, we scored within 2 minutes of the first quarter. That's an incredible highlight. Yep. We get the first ever kickoff return for a touchdown in the XFL. Yep. That's not the highlight. The highlight is right here, 2-point conversion try, and the curse is broken.
Now I have a problem with this play, and you know I do.
Yeah.
So on that Play XFL app that we mentioned, I had guessed the score of 21-9 for St. Louis against New York, and they got to 21.
No. Oh yeah, 21-9. Yeah.
They had got to 21 on this play,
and
then they go for 2 and make it.
Yeah.
To put it up to 23 and eliminate me from the jackpot. Not that I'm ever expecting to win those damn things, but
yeah.
Like, it was just one of those, like, if they're going to get one, of course it's going to be now.
It's funny. We were in the same situation because I had New York 18 to St. Louis 28.
Yeah.
Accounting for them never getting a conversion. So I thought, they're going to get another touchdown after this, but they're not going to convert it here.
Right.
They convert it, and I'm like, okay, so I'm doing my math. Like, all right, they just need now like a field goal, and maybe they can get a safety. Like, New York's bad enough they get a safety right now.
I think, because remember at one point I was like, no, you need a 3-point conversion returned to get 3 and a safety. No, it's not as exciting. The way our special teams were playing today, like, part of me was just like, I wouldn't be shocked if this happened.
Yeah, they returned a 2-point conversion the whole way back to their end zone, get only the 2 points, and then they just need to kick a field goal, and I'm still in the running. But then at the same time, New York needs to get 9 more points on top of it.
Which was not happening. It was a good.
I think that's also worth noting. You only had New York at 9. I had them at 18. Clearly, you were slightly more confident about our secondary after last week than I was.
I don't know if I'd say that. I'd say more as I was slightly more confident that I knew how bad New York's offense was. I'm gonna be honest. That's more what it was.
That's fair.
I mean, they got shut out against DC. Like, I've already said it once or twice in this podcast. Or in this episode and last week multiple times, Matt McGloin's not a good quarterback. And I had seen nothing that they said they weren't not starting him. So, but yeah, I only had him at 9. I should note that this 2-point conversion, by the way, was an interesting one. So Tamu,
I didn't even.
Yeah, like that's the more exciting part about it.
Yeah, this is a pretty exciting play.
Tamu actually flips it to
Pearson L.
Was it Pearson L?
Yeah.
Who then starts running with it down towards the right side.
Yeah.
And sees Russell in the back of the end zone and throws it to him.
Yeah, Alonzo Russell. Yeah.
Now, what's interesting, if you rewatch the play, and I don't know 100% sure, but it looks like this. I think the way the play was called was that when he flips it to him and he starts running, his play is to throw it to Russell.
Mm.
And if he's not open, I think he's supposed to throw it back to Tamu.
Because if you actually see double forward pass.
Yeah, because if you actually look at it again, Tamu flips it to him and then immediately starts backing up.
Okay. I did not notice that.
And I think the play is not for him to run whatsoever. It's just if that's open, throw it. If it's not, toss it back.
Yeah.
Because Ta'amu doesn't move at all. He like, and it's not like he just kind of backs away. Like he intentively backs up. And I think that was I don't know 100%.
Or good quarterbacking to give him another option.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Who knows? That's just me. I think
he's not going to go throw blocks.
Right. That's just more speculation. It was just a thing I caught that I was like, I wonder if was the initial or the intended.
That's a good point out. Yeah. Yeah, I can't believe this was like one of the most exciting plays we saw this weekend, and we just immediately were like, so I didn't win money.
Yeah. like I said, when we got that field goal and made it 15-3, I think my overall intentiveness of the game at first was just like, this game's over now.
Yeah.
Just because, I just didn't think New York was going to score.
It was definitely like, probably not if you're a New York fan, but it was definitely like the most exciting first half of the XFL.
There was a lot
doubt.
going on. The first half of that, like first week of DC, like DC versus Seattle, like that was really good because there was a lot going on there. But there was a lot.
Well, I mean, the home crowd was selling it. Yeah. Like, everyone was into it. There were some excellent plays.
Right. When the XFL, like, pitched St. Louis football coming back.
This is what they wanted.
This is what they wanted to happen.
Exactly what they want. Yeah, 100%. So curse is broken. And then I have, with 40 seconds remaining in the second half, this is a big moment. Not only is this the wheelbarrow attack, where he decides to grab a man by his leg and drag him backwards, as if that is affecting tackling. But then this is
for our
also,
secondary, it might be.
This is also the start of a phenomenon that's kind of hard to describe. Like, it's hard to be in this situation, but like maybe have you ever seen a situation where there's a room full of adults and one particular adult man is being bullied and you feel bad because there's nothing you can do? That's what it was like to watch the second half of this game, because the refs really did not like Silverman on New York. He was getting flagged for everything, and they accidentally eject him during this play because they think his helmet comes off.
Yeah. Yeah, because we were confused by that. Obviously, we were all yelling, so didn't hear anything actually going on.
When we were very excited about the wheelbarrow attack.
That was one thing, yeah. So essentially what happens in this is that earlier there was a play that started getting a little chippy. There's like offsetting penalties. And then with about 40 seconds left, you talk about that like wheelbarrow tackle they had. And Silberman, there's like a scrum that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And we just assume somebody's going to get, like, I thought there was a punch thrown. I thought there was a penalty. Nothing comes from it. Silberman's helmet does come off, and they kick him out. But that's a rule in the NFL that if their helmet comes off, they have to leave a play. That's not a rule in the XFL. So that's why, like, so the ref kicks him out, and you can hear all the audio. The ref kicks him out and is like, somebody's like, why are we kicking him out? And he's just like, his helmet came off. He's like, we don't have to kick him out for that. He's like, bring him back. Bring him back.
Head officials running on the sideline, like, bring him back in, bring him back in.
Yeah, he runs off, like McGloin runs after. He's like, get back in here. And meanwhile, like, the camera cuts to him, like, storming down the sideline.
But so I wouldn't say he's furious, but he's definitely not happy.
Well, he's very upset at that point, just from, like, I don't think he understood what was happening.
Yeah.
And then the very next play, Matt McGloin tries to go deep down the left side. It should be noted that they were actually having a decent drive at this point, moving the ball with like a minute left. And tries to go deep down the left side, gets picked off. Hell of a catch by Robinson.
Yes. Yeah.
Caught it like one-armed. Shouldn't say handed because I don't think he had a hand on it. He just caught it with like his bicep against his head. But a hell of a catch, and that led to some hitting out on like the outside.
There, he tackled him after he was down. A guy is like pinning him, and they're like there starts to be a tussle. But at that point, Silberman does get an unnecessary roughness. He actually gets flagged this time.
Yeah, that was his first one. He came out of, I don't even see what he did. He wasn't actually involved in the initial.
Yeah.
Because I saw a replay and he was still like running towards the sideline.
Yeah, the replay didn't highlight anything. Like, they're like, okay, check this out. I'm like, what? Where? They're in groups. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, something happened.
Yeah.
But he gets called for it. And there was also another flag. I think the late hit was the other flag.
Yeah, block in the back, I think. Yeah, and they offset.
Right. And then St. Louis just kneeled down and ended.
First half's over. Second half, McGloin doesn't come out, and what do? They open with a penalty by.
So here's and this is the weird thing. Like, this is the funny thing is, like, obviously started getting chippy. Silverman clearly not happy. They go into halftime.
Yeah.
And then they come out of the locker room, and the very first thing he does is another, like, unsportsmanlike. Not another. This was his first one.
Yeah.
An unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Against him. This one, I think we instigated a little.
We definitely did because we were in their huddle.
That was his next one.
Oh, that's the next one.
Yeah,
sorry.
this one, one of St. Louis's guys was down on the ground, but like grabbing Silverman by like the face mask or something, and then Silverman just kind of like shoves his head into the ground to get him off.
Say that this entire second half is us instigating and never getting caught doing it. Not proud of it, but also
it worked.
It's
effective.
A little funny.
Yeah, so
when it works out for us, it's funny. But
yeah.
if I was a New York fan, I'd be furious because St. Louis was getting away with a lot here. I think.
Yeah, it wasn't just like New York was chippy. It was chippy on both sides. It always seemed like New York kept getting penalized.
Right.
For it.
I think we were just a little bit sneakier than.
Right. But I forget who the commentators were for this. I think Joey Galloway was the one, and he was perplexed by it because he was like, you had so many penalties in the first half. Speaking of New York,
yeah,
you go into the halftime. The message probably is to stop these stupid penalties, and you immediately come out and he's talking about Silverman to begin with.
Specifically,
he's like, he's like, you immediately come out and then do what you did to end the half.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I don't understand what you're doing. And I mean, yeah, like and interesting thing was like audio that you're picking up through the refs mics. They were talking about like should we toss him? And then somebody, like one of them was like, well, it's only his first unsportsmanlike, and they're just like, well, I guess this is his last chance then.
Yeah, later during one of the commercial breaks, they flash back and show the refs talking to Hayes, and he's saying like, look, we gave him a warning. We're keeping an eye on him. If it gets bad, we're taking him out of the game. But they're like, he's gotten better since we gave him the warning. So as of right now, it's fine. And Hayes was just like, okay, cool. And then he like turns to his guys like, they gave him a warning.
He tells him, he's like, they gave him a warning, just don't do anything to retaliate.
He's like, don't react. Like if something happens, don't react.
And then it cuts over to New York's head coach telling Silverman to be like,
they gave you a warning.
They're looking at you. Clearly they want to eject you if you do anything else. Yeah. Stop it. And then like later they had some guy on the sidelines, I don't remember his name. I guess one of their sideline reporters or something, but I guess he used to be like an offensive lineman or defensive lineman or something, and they talked to him and were like, so what like is probably going through his head? And as they do this, they cut to a camera that's on him, and you can't hear any of this man's like whatever he's saying because Silverman swore to whoever he was talking to, so they cut the entire audio.
Oh, yeah, I hate that.
And then it goes back to the booth, and I was like, well, I don't even know what that guy just said.
Why aren't the games streamed like 5 or 10 seconds late? Like a 5 or 10 second delay, so they can just beep.
So you just cut it.
Yeah.
I think, and this is just pure speculation, part of it might have to do with because of the like how into like the gambling they are, because there's a lot of like live bets that you can place. So like the key to live betting is to being up to date, like up to the second.
Yeah.
And that's just speculation, but I don't know.
What are they talking about important stats and then it gets beeped over?
There's been a couple times where I'm like, oh crap, I wanted to hear what that guy said. Yeah. And then you don't because somebody was like, shit. And it's like,
okay, let's beep everything after they already clearly swore. Just so you can just punch the, emphasize it. All right, moving on. One thing I said so far is that in the BattleHawks drive coming back from the half, all their passes are no longer just screens. They're starting to go deep. They're starting to take more chances, and they're actually like accumulating a lot of passing yards before they're just trying to kill the clock. I mean, that's all I had to say about that.
Yeah, it should be noted, New York's first drive did nothing.
Yeah, the BattleHawks start instigating a few more penalties. We're definitely poking the bear here. And then 9:57 remaining in the third, 58-yard field goal by St. Louis. This is the big one.
Yeah, this is one we referenced earlier.
58 yards. Yeah, no joke.
Like I said, Hayes is just like Russolino said something to him. He's like, "You want to bang it? All right, go out and bang it. Like, just do it."
Happy you said that because I did not hear that live.
Yeah,
and that's awesome.
It was a hell of a quote because I was like, "That's interesting." Like he legitimately just talked him into doing it, and then went out and nailed it.
They were up by 20. Now at the end of that field goal, obviously it's 3:26. 5:20 remaining in the third. Stilberman gets another unnecessary roughness. Does not get ejected at this point.
I should note that shortly before this, we saw the best. Actually, I shouldn't say the best sign. I made note of a sign.
Oh, I have it written. We didn't see it yet.
The Thin Mint sign is the one I'm talking about.
Thin Mint. Sorry.
So there's a girl that, like a little girl that has a sign up that is like, "I'll trade a box of Girl Scout cookies for a BattleHawks football."
I think it specifically says Thin Mints, but yeah.
Was it Thin Mints? Yeah, they were. Well, I know that's what they gave. They gave because later on, then a guy comes up, gives her a football.
Well,
and
look,
gives
I'm not trading it for like a Samoa. Like
I'm not
going
trading for a Samoa.
I'm going for like a Thin Mint or bust.
Thin Mints, Dosey Dos. I'll take some Dosey Dos.
Mm.
My favorite. Peanut butters. Can't get enough.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. So sorry. He gets this unnecessary roughness. This is where they warn him at commercial break.
Yeah, this was the one that you were talking about, was right near the line of scrimmage.
Yes. Then this is the end of the third, and now we see another great sign. Probably your favorite, without a doubt. Want to describe the big Vince energy?
So somebody referenced this earlier, that they thought after one of the field goals that they saw a Vince McMahon.
Yes, I had said.
Was it you?
Yeah. I definitely saw Vince McMahon held up.
And then they come back from a commercial break at one point.
At the end of the third, starting the fourth quarter.
And then you see the poster in all its glory.
Yeah.
And it says Big Vince Energy, and it has Vince McMahon, arms open.
Yeah, it's clearly coming into like an opening in the WWE. Like he's walking out of that big arena with the screens behind him.
Yep, and the St. Louis BattleHawks logo may or may not be near his groin region.
Yeah, there's phallic placement of the St. Louis BattleHawks logo, and it is truly incredible. They hold the shot for a long time.
Too long.
And I would not say too long.
I
would say definitely the appropriate amount of time to make sure everybody has seen it, and it was so worth it.
That's just XFL football.
I mean, it was truly, truly incredible. Hats off to that person.
I will say that if you're above the age of 18 listening to this, you should go and take a look at that.
Yeah.
Just type it.
You know what? Even, like, it's not great for kids, but it's also not, like,
I'm sticking to our bases.
Yeah, that's fair. I wouldn't show it to a kid, but if a kid saw it, I'd be like, okay, that's silly, but I'm not. Like, if I was watching it with my nephew, I wouldn't be like, oh, this was awful.
No.
I will also say, this is when the crowd starts the BattleHawks call and response chant, where it's Battle, then Hawks, then KA-KAW. And it was truly, you would think that this franchise has existed for much longer than it actually has. You would not think this is the first.
Yeah, they were
game.
hyped.
It was truly like, I mean, the game was already like put to bed, and even so, I was still like, we could come back from this. Like I got that excited about it. 12:27 remaining in the fourth. Bend don't break. This is the bend don't break defense. We get them down to the end. New York fails to score on a 4th and goal. Bend don't break.
Should also be noted, I didn't make a note of when this was exactly, but Silverman also got taken out of the game. They just benched him.
Yeah.
And we're just like, all right, you're done with this. And that was the end of those shenanigans, really.
Yes.
The fourth quarter, not a lot happened.
The only other highlight for the fourth quarter is with 8:30 remaining in the fourth, Perez is in at quarterback.
Yep.
He's finally got his chance. Well, as we said before, McGloin isn't coming back in. Seems like they don't think they can cut it with Williams, so Perez comes in. And he gets, with 6:13 remaining in the fourth, he gets the first touchdown to Austin Duke for an 8-yard pass. The New York touchdown, leaving us with the final, the final New York score of 9.
Yeah, they went for 3,
to
didn't get it.
26. They did fail. It is nice to see them go for a 3, but it was not noteworthy at all. It was just a kind of a bad attempt.
I think there was nobody open in the end zone, and then Perez ended up running backwards right into a BattleHawks defender and got sacked.
48 seconds remaining in the fourth, a 36-yard field goal for St. Louis, 9-29 final score St. Louis. One final note, Fitzpatrick didn't come in at all this time, which was great. I mean, I know they were running a lot. It seemed like they were going to use him at any moment, but I think they've realized that's kind of a silly strategy to bring out Fitzpatrick for him to either fake a run or try to run himself when Tom was perfectly capable. It was a weird strategy, and I wasn't really understanding where they're going with it.
So I don't necessarily know if they're like done with that. Part of me just feels like
Just didn't happen this game.
they just didn't need to. They just felt the need not to do it.
Yeah.
Like I said, even with Tommy, like he didn't throw as much as he usually does, and that's just simply because pretty early they were already up 6-0 after their first drive, and then New York was clearly not doing a lot offensively, and then after that kick return for a touchdown, it was only 12-3, but it felt like it was so much more.
I don't understand why they keep bringing Fitzpatrick in. If anyone has any insight, I'm definitely open to hearing it. But I don't understand. Are they trying to get tape on him? Like, if that's the case, why not? Like, when we have a 20-point lead like this, why not give Fitzpatrick a drive, see what he can do? Like, maybe get tape for him. I'm not sure what's happening with, the thought process behind bringing him in for handoffs.
Yeah, like I said, when we talked about Tampa, like Tampa Bay has been doing that since week 1, where like they'll have a starter and then they keep bringing in Flowers, and their thought process with that is that Flowers is the better running quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So they use him a lot more for if they want to change up the speed and do a little bit different style. I don't understand it, since Tom, who can do both of that, and has done both of it well.
And when you break up quarterback play like that, then they have to get warmed up back into it, even if it's just one play. Unless he's like, maybe he needs a break. I get it, but like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to break up this. I think that's what Tampa Bay's issue is. They're constantly rotating in quarterbacks. Nobody's getting warmed up. Nobody's getting hot. Nobody's on a streak or anything. It's just like interruption, interruption, interruption. I'm not sure. I don't have a problem with Fitzpatrick. Fitzgerald. I'm confusing that with.
I think you said Fitzpatrick, but I think it's
Fitzgerald. I have been saying that. I apologize. Yeah, I don't have a problem with Fitzgerald. I just don't know how he plays, and I don't see a reason for him to be in when Tom is perfectly capable of everything he can do.
I know. In the one episode, I talked like briefly about Taysom Hill with the Saints. Like the Saints do that a lot with Taysom Hill. They'll take, and it's like, why are you taking out Breeze? And it's like, well, whatever they do when Taysom Hill's in usually works.
Yeah.
But they do a bunch of different things with him, and all we've seen Fitzgerald do is just either fake a handoff or either hand it off or fake the handoff and run like 2 yards.
Yeah.
Other than that, they haven't done any types of different formations or anything.
No.
And I don't really get it.
Yeah. Well, whatever. We came out with a W for an incredible home game, for an incredible crowd with some awesome looking uniforms. Like everything about this game I was ecstatic about. Except the secondary and the tackling, which are still issues. Hayes specifically acknowledged, though, our tackling is an issue. Hopefully, no future wheelbarrows on people. I think we can cut out that strategy. But I'm just hoping that we're against Seattle next week, I want to say. Yeah. We're at home with Seattle. I want to see better tackling, and I want to see a better secondary, because until that's fixed, I will never feel comfortable about our defense. We have excellent run defense, but we are the running team in the league. Like, there aren't a lot of other teams in the league where I'm like, we need to stop that run, besides us.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Seattle. The secondary for us, like, really not that good. But I think one of the promising notes is that, like, we've already faced the best offense in the league, and we didn't get run out of the building
Yeah.
by him, So like that at least is something to look up with. Our schedule is not that bad now. We faced Houston and Dallas already, who are probably the best two teams in the West. Um, LA might sneak up there and knock out Dallas, but like for our division, like we still have Tampa Bay 2 times, and we got New York again.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty confident.
Yeah.
And I think the best part about this weekend, Stone, is that the BattleHawks are in first place now.
Yeah. I'm excited. I mean, they were already first place in my heart. No, week two, we just got killed by dumb mistakes. I do think we're definitely one of the best teams. I'm not going to say straight up that we're the best team because I know I'm biased about it and I would need a more impartial look and I would actually need to watch all of the games to be like, yeah, we're the best team. But we're in the conversation.
Oh yeah, no, Houston. I mean, the way Houston started, you can't say that they're not the best team.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at it too, I really think we've shown and proven that we are. If you look at the standings right now in the East, you got St. Louis and DC are 1-2, both at 2-1. But St. Louis holds the tiebreaker in touchdowns. And then third place, the Guardians at 1-2, and then Tampa Bay rounding out the East at 0-3. And in the West, you got Houston at 3-0, Dallas at 2-1, and then LA at 1-2, and Seattle at 1-2.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you look at the 2-1 teams, it's us, Dallas, and DC.
Yeah.
And we beat Dallas already. They didn't have Landry Jones, but we beat Dallas. And it's really just, can we beat DC?
Yeah.
I mean, if they play the way DC played past week, we can absolutely beat DC.
Well, I mean, but they are playing Tampa Bay this week.
Yeah, they do got Tampa Bay coming up.
Speaking of which, let's talk about matchups.
Right. Make our picks again. So, just to recap one more time, week 3.
We don't have to recap.
Oh, we got to recap. We're not recapping, but we are at least recapping that I was 4-0 and that you were 3-1 in those picks.
Let's just keep moving.
So, Saturday, let me pull up the
LA at New York, I believe. That's what I have, but
yep. So Saturday, first game Saturday, LA at New York. LA is 7-point favorites in this game.
Yeah, I just, after watching New York against St. Louis, I can't in good conscience choose New York.
Right.
New York is the home team, which is an advantage for them, but I just have to take LA after watching New York this game.
New York played good. They played well.
They've done been good.
Their first game was at home, and the other two have been on the road. And they played really well at home the first game, but that was against Tampa Bay, who hasn't won a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got no like weird takes or anything. I think if Matt McGloin starts again, LA wins this because you know my feelings.
Yeah.
But I think that Marquise Williams, he's pretty decent.
Yeah, I thought he was good.
He just
didn't put a touchdown on the board,
yeah.
So.
And I just don't think they've given him enough like first team reps that he knows exactly what to do. But
I think if he's training, like if he's the guy during practice, he might have a better showing. Yeah. But again, after watching, I just can't. I can't.
That team's a mess.
Yeah.
Like that team's it really is. McGloin probably loves Silberman because as much McGloin hot takes as there was,
Silberman took the heat off.
Silberman took that heat off, and McGloin didn't even come out in the second half. So it was like, oh, we don't have to worry about McGloin.
I mean the penalties, man. You can
Very
be as good a team as you want, but if you keep racking up penalties, that's what screwed us in week 2.
Oh yeah,
our penalties.
Yeah, we kept kicking ourselves in the foot in that.
All right.
That's the thing is like they're not a great team, and they have so many penalties.
Yeah,
and you
can't come back from it.
That's not a recipe to win a game.
Yeah. You're just digging yourself in a hole and never able to climb up.
Yeah, so you're going with LA in that one.
Yeah, I think we both are.
I think we both are. Game 2 on Saturday.
Don't insult me.
Seattle
Don't
Dragons
insult me.
and our St. Louis
me.
BattleHawks. St. Louis is the biggest favorite of the weekend, 12 points.
Yeah, in my heart, always the biggest favorite, St. Louis. No, just because the Dragons aren't. I don't have to tell you. I mean, I've been trashing on the Dragons every week, so it's St. Louis. Plus, they're home again. They're back-to-back home games.
Yeah, St. Louis is definitely the better team. Seattle's not great.
And their uniforms are awful. They lose points in my book for that all the time.
But yeah, I've picked against St. Louis before, but I'm not here. Like
Yeah.
that's
You were, out of the two of us, you're the least biased,
right.
but I'm aware of my bias. But
That's all that
even in
matters.
this matchup, no. It's St. Louis. And you know what? In all the games we've played so far, I don't think like it could have always gone St. Louis's way. Like
Oh yeah.
every time. So
Well, they won 2 of them.
I mean, yes, we're a fan of this team, but I legitimately think they are definitely in contention for the best team in the league. So a lot of the predictions going forward, I'm going to choose them like most every time. Just as a heads up.
And you'll probably see a lot of these conversations be the same because it's like, oh, so and so versus Tampa Bay, so and so versus Tampa, and it's like, well, Tampa Bay is just not very good. Like that's in a league where you only have 4 games and 8 teams. Like some of this might get repetitive.
Also, preemptively upset. I won't get to watch any of the Saturday games, including
Right, you won't be there for the BattleHawks.
like, yeah, I can't even. I'm going to a wedding, so I can't even like sneak to the games. It's
Just pull it up
in the ceremony
on your phone.
It's
in a corner.
It's not even like during the reception. It's the ceremony, so you definitely can't.
That's rough.
But
You just gotta do what you watch Friends. Watched Friends?
Yes, I watched Friends, but
there's an episode where like they go to a funeral and Joey is trying to listen to, I think it's like the Giants game or something like that. And he's like got it on like a walkie and he like is listening to it in a corner, and like Ross's like dad comes up and he's like, "What do you listen to?" And he's like, "Oh, it's just the game." And he's like, "Oh, let me take a look." And then like later on, there's just a crowd of people in the corner listening to this game. And then something bad happens, and Ross's dad's just like, "Oh, now I'm depressed." And they're at a funeral, and he's like, "Well, more than I was." Like, I just imagine that's what you'll do for the BattleHawks. You'll just be screaming in the corner of the.
In a perfect world, yeah, I can't watch those games calm.
It's unfortunate.
Dallas, Houston.
Dallas, Houston Sunday. So Houston at Dallas. Houston. This kind of surprised me. Houston is only a 1-point favorite.
This is a tough one for me. I think this is, of all the predictions we've had to do, I think this is the closest. I think Houston and Dallas are both really good teams. Houston's got a bit of an issue at quarterback right this moment. Like, just the way they looked.
Houston?
No. Yeah.
With PJ Walker?
No, I'm saying the wrong thing.
Yeah, I think so. I was like, you mean the best?
What is happening?
The best offense in the game?
What is happening to my brain right now? No.
What are you talking about?
PJ Walker's on Dallas.
No, he's on Houston. Dallas is Landry Jones. What's going on?
About this way.
That's fair. I don't want to talk too much about this wedding, but
I'm just
you have been noted to not be too happy.
okay. I'm going with whatever team PJ Walker is on.
Houston
this
you
week.
Want to go with
he
Houston.
might. I think they're going to trade him actually to Dallas. Was looking at picking him up.
Is that the news? I missed that news.
Yeah, I have it written down. I just haven't shared it yet. But yeah, if he ends up getting traded, I'm cheering for that team instead.
That's fair.
I feel like an idiot. I feel like an absolute idiot. I even wrote here Dallas on my predictions.
But you're going with Houston.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going with PJ Walker's team.
I know. I'm saying like this is a very embarrassing time for me. So it's like clearly not just because of right now. I wrote this earlier.
Yeah, this had already happened. Houston, Dallas, pretty close.
I know. I feel like an idiot. I feel like an
They're both in
absolute
Texas.
Idiot. Yeah.
That's fine.
Yes.
It's only week 4,
Definitely Houston.
Yeah. Houston's got a really good offense. Dallas, I've watched they're 2-1, and I've watched all their games, but both games with Landry Jones, and like he's very slow starting. And I just feel like if you get off to a slow start against this Houston team, like they are just gonna run you out of the building.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is gonna be the best game of the weekend.
Vegas says so. I mean, like I said, only a 1-point favorite for Houston. Shocked by it.
Well, they're home.
Dallas is home, yeah. And then the last game to round out the weekend, I also picked Houston.
Yeah.
I don't know if I said that. Last game to round out the weekend, DC at Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
DC. Now, this one shocked me even more, and I think it's just solely based on how bad DC played last week. But DC's only 1.5-point favorites.
Yeah, probably because of how much Vipers scored too.
How much they scored and just how much DC is terrible.
Yeah, I'm gonna say whatever team PJ Walker's on for this one this matchup.
He's flying
again.
Tampa real quick.
I heard they're trying to trade him, so if he gets traded to one of these two teams, I'm gonna.
Whatever team PJ Walker's on will win a game this week.
Yeah, no, it's DC.
You're on DC
for me. It is. Yeah, it is DC. Tampa Bay just doesn't have it together. In my opinion.
Yeah, they played well this weekend, but I think DC. I also picked DC. I think they get back on track, and I think Tampa Bay gets back to normal.
Yeah.
So I actually expect DC to
normal, like a normal football team, or normal like they're normal.
They're normal.
Okay, that's what I thought you meant.
Yeah, I thought they'd play better this past weekend, and they did. I didn't expect them to play that good.
Yeah.
I think DC actually blows them out in this game.
I don't know about blow them out.
I think blows them out.
I think, I think DC is gonna win, but I don't think by as much as maybe you're thinking.
I'm going at least 20.
20-point difference?
I feel good about it.
I'd say 9.
Somebody's got to have a hot take on it. Because all of our picks are the same.
When Tampa Bay undoubtedly picks up PJ Walker, I think that's going to be a big difference for them.
Yeah, I think it's a slight overreaction, like the spread, just because of how bad DC played and how well Tampa played against Houston last week. So I think 1.5 is very, like, I just don't think that's right.
Yeah.
I think DC beats them and beats them by a lot. I think Cardell Jones doesn't throw 4 interceptions. Because if you look at the stats, DC played well. It's just Jones threw 4 picks.
Yeah.
You ain't scoring when you're throwing interceptions, and that's how they got blown out the entire game.
Yeah.
So I think he doesn't do that, and I think they win by 20 or so.
Okay. Embarrassing predictions on my end.
Embarrassing predictions.
Feel very much like a fool right now. But
that's fine. That's fine. I did want to note the one interesting thing, the St. Louis BattleHawks have the highest attended XFL game.
Yeah,
in the entire league.
I don't doubt that at all. I know Seattle, I believe, had a big home game in week 2. Yeah, it was sold in the 20-something thousands.
So in week 2, Seattle had 29,172 was the official
big
attendance.
Number for a brand new league.
St. Louis 29,554.
Yeah, they also drank all of the Bud Light, all the Budweiser sponsored tailgating event before the game.
Which you sent me, and I'm just like, I'm not shocked by that.
Yeah.
Did you see how raucous that place was? Not shocked. They actually, so I did see the stats. They actually had the highest attendance this week through all 4 games. They had 69,000.
Oh, the XFL in total.
XFL.
Okay. That's awesome.
They had 69,000 or so in week 1, 76 in week 2, and this past week they had 81.
Wait, was Tampa Bay home again?
This past week?
Yeah. Yeah, because they actually, like, even though they're not spectacular so far, they've been selling really well in their stadium.
Yeah. Well, that was their first home game, but I think they've sold fine.
Yeah.
Like, they've been selling fine, but that was their first actual one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Man, I am just really
losing all of a sudden.
I'm a real clown
That's fine.
so far.
I'll keep you back on track.
Thanks.
But it is interesting to note Seattle's second game dropped past weekend. They were at 29,000 whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And this past weekend it was only 22. Still high. It's still higher than every other stadium.
Yeah,
but
percentage-wise it's a huge difference.
Yeah, dropped 7,000 though.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm very curious to see what St. Louis does this
It's also possible something else was going on. You know?
Well, the weather was very crappy.
Well,
I didn't know that.
Seattle.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, was there another event where the Mariners playing?
No.
Or?
Baseball is.
Oh, I don't know if
they're in spring training right now.
Okay.
So they're in Arizona. Not close to Seattle.
I don't know who they're competing with right now.
That's fine.
I know St. Louis in week 2, TV ratings wise, was more. There were more people watching the BattleHawks game than the Blues, which was a kind of a big deal because they just won the Stanley Cup.
Right.
So
I didn't even factor that in. Yeah. No, that was the interesting, as I saw a tweet before the game, and I don't want to harp on Stan Kroenke, but for those that don't know, he was the owner in the NFL that he owns the Rams, moved the Rams from St. Louis to Los Angeles. There was a big backlash in St. Louis, obviously, moving the team. But there was a tweet somebody sent out that had highlighted, they'd showed the entire crowd how packed it was. And we're just like, you're right, Stan Kroenke. St. Louis isn't a football town. It's a BattleHawks town. I was like, yep, 100%.
That's awesome. There is one piece of news we wanted to follow up on from last week.
Right. So last week I had talked about biggest XFL free agent. And
I immediately thought Antonio Brown.
And then you said
Johnny Manziel, I think.
I think so, yeah. But no, that was none other than Guy Fieri. Well, Guy Fieri officially picked an XFL team.
Close to our name.
Yeah, it's not actually an XFL team. We were joking about the Flavortown Fieris and Fire, I think we just said as well. Yeah. To which Guy Fieri said that he was supporting in 2021 the Flavortown Flames, and then somebody made a mock-up uniform for him and logo.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is really funny if you find it. If you check out his Twitter, the mock-up is pretty professional.
It's very well done. Yeah,
I would say. But yeah, so if you're looking forward to Flavortown getting a team, look no further. Flames are on their way.
I was joking last night actually with one of our other friends that I had told him about this, and he had said like, where do they play their home games? And I was like, well, maybe they do what Guy Fieri does, and they don't actually have a home stadium. They just keep traveling to wherever Guy Fieri's doing a show that week. So like, oh, we're playing in Nashville tonight because they got this great barbecue joint down the street. So they're just awesome. Traveling. They're like the Harlem Globetrotters. They just travel around. That's where they're playing their games.
All right. I think that's all we have to say about week 3. Really looking forward to week 4.
Week 3's in the books. Week 4 up ahead.
Upset I won't get to catch the game, but I'm going to catch the recap, and we're going to have just as much to talk about next week. Hopefully the tackling will be better. Hopefully the secondary will be better. But hopefully we keep playing on par with the really good stuff we've been doing on offense.
Yeah. I think one thing I think can guarantee will be the exact same is the stadium.
I thought you were going to say Coach Hayes' face.
Well, that's never going to change. But
those are the two constants.
I think the crowd's going to be as rowdy as it was the first week. Week 3. But I think St. Louis is gonna show up and shell out every week of this. They've only got 5 home games, and they've been waiting for football for 5 years. Yeah. So I think it's going to be excellent. It's going to be amazing.
For sure. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Look forward to the next episode next Wednesday after week 4. And we, I don't know. Can't wait to watch the game this weekend. I don't know what else to say. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go, St. Louis.
Go BattleHawks. Ching, 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 ching.